everyone, this is Mitch and welcome to a brand new Kerbal Space Program video. So as usual, you can look into the timestamps for the particular parts you're interested in. This is going to be a build episode, but before that I want to explain a couple of things. So as you've noticed, I've been away for basically the past 3-4 months. I haven't posted anything. Long story short, basically I've been working 2 part-time jobs and with university as well on top of that. So yeah, it's my fault. But you guys have been awesome. I've been gaining subscribers somehow, even though I haven't been posting anything. So that's amazing. That's really nice. So I definitely want to keep this channel going. I don't know how much content I can put out until late spring, basically, because I'll be on an internship full-time starting in I believe the last week of January. Yeah, so there's that. Also, you may notice that this is in true 1080p. So yeah, I'm behind several years in terms of quality. I'm still doing my editing with a very primitive program I won't even mention. But yeah, this is 1080p. I basically picked up a really cheap but decent quality 1080p monitor on sale during this fall. So I hope you enjoy this. So without further ado, let's get into our game. And basically, I'm going to explain the plan for the next mission. So I've been working on this. I wanted to do this video earlier, so I've been working on it a little bit beforehand. So off camera, I've unlocked these 2 technologies because the next rocket just requires that much more oomph, especially if we're not going to upgrade the launch pad or the VAB to get more parts and bigger rockets and everything. So this just made things a lot easier. So there we go. This made it a lot simpler. I think it's still possible with the previous tech, but yeah, this is total convenience, and for future missions this is probably going to be required. So larger fuel tanks and bigger engines. So what is the mission? Well, with the previous episode we are done going through the list in alphabetical order, basically, because that would take us to Eve, and there is no way right now that we can just make a return mission from Eve. I'm saying no way, but maybe there's way. But Eve is really hard to take off from, and you've got to get there in the first place, so that's a really big challenge. So, we've been to Ilu, we have been to Drace, and we have been to Duna. We have, of course, explored the Kerbin system. So that leaves Joule, which would probably be easier, actually, than my next target. That leaves Eve, which I've already said we're not going to. So, you've guessed it, we're going to Moho. Now, Moho is deceptively hard to get to. It's not that far, and you might think, well, it's not far, it should be easy, right? And if you've looked at charts, delta V charts, you'll see, okay, it requires a lot of delta V, but how hard could it be? Well, first of all, we can easily see by looking at this that this beige, pink, whatever color is the orbit of Moho, and it's inclined. In fact, it's one of the most inclined orbits. It's also pretty small, much like Ilu, which makes this a little harder to get an encounter with. But it's also orbiting really close to the Sun, to Kerbal, however we want to call this. So this is actually hard, because the closer you are to an object, the faster you orbit. Like, look at this speed, and look at the speed of Kerbin. That's right, that's about 4,000 meters per second difference. So this is significant. Moho is hard to get to, and because of the inclination, even if we go to the transfer window planner, we go, okay, Kerbin, Moho, perfect, cool, plot it. Okay, we get this reading, and it's great. It's great, but making a maneuver to follow this perfect path is going to be difficult because the ejection angle and the amount of delta V that's involved to make the transfer, it's going to be complicated. So what most people suggest, and what I suggest, is that you actually prepare to go to Moho regardless of the transfer window, but being mindful of, and this is where this comes in, this makes it easier, we are basically using this satellite as a reference because it's close to Kerbin. Let's say we want to send it to Moho. Oh, we can't see it like that. I have to make a maneuver. But basically, you want to go to Moho when Kerbin is on the ascending node, or descending node, really. Because Moho orbits so fast, it should be relatively easy to tweak your maneuver to encounter Moho. But by doing the maneuver at the ascending or descending node, you can actually pre-plan, in a way, the plane change. Basically, what we're going to do is we are going to launch from Kerbin around noon or midnight, although noon would be probably easier, and launch straight into an angle that's going to be the same as the orbital plane for Moho. This means that then we've mostly removed that variable. Basically, we only need to work with forwards and backwards. Man, it's been such a long time I haven't played this game. With, well, you guess my point. Basically, we only need to decelerate or accelerate. So, that's it. That makes the mission a lot easier because we're going to be on the same plane. We're going to launch straight like that and just try to get an encounter, basically. It still requires a heck of a lot of delta V. So this here is from orbit. So total delta V of just above 4,000 meters per second. That's quite a lot, and we need to return because I want this to be a manned mission. So if we look at the return, oh, it's another 5,000 delta V. So see, that's why I unlocked the bigger fuel tanks. So without further ado again, here is the rocket I came up with to go to Moho and back. Where is it? Here. Notice it's Mark II because I actually tried to make a rocket and it was pretty close to a working rocket actually on the previous technology. Now this thing is a monstrosity. It is huge. So this is, well, first it's going to be the closest thing to an Apollo mission we've seen so far. I mean, we've had rendezvous back in space around Elu, and I think even around Drace? I'm not so sure. But anyway, this lander is definitely a separate vehicle. It's going to land and come back. This thing has just about, I think, 2,000 meters per second of delta V, which is just enough to land once and get back into space. So this thing goes down to Moho. Let's get closer, actually. This thing goes down to Moho. Now, there is a probe core in this service bay, which means that we're going to be sending down a scientist. We are going to take the most we can from this mission, from getting closer to the sun, from, you know, getting close to Moho without bringing multiple experiments. So we're going to bring a scientist along. So this probe core will help with the landing and takeoff. Hopefully I have a strong enough of a relay to send a signal back. Of course, this thing only communicates with the local system. This thing also, basically, they communicate together. And they should be able to communicate with a long-range relay because I've also unlocked the strongest antennae. So that should help. So there we go. This is the lander. with all the science experiments we have unlocked so far, gravioli, barometer, accelerometer, thermometer, science junior, goo, all this nice stuff. We have radiator panels just in case it gets a little hot, because we are going to the closest place to the sun. This is the return vehicle. This is the only part that lands, and this should take us home from Moho. And it's just a simple cabin like that. So we're going to need to do the maneuver around Moho and then around Kerbin, because we won't have very much signal. So there won't be much adjusting in deep space. But that's it. So let's look a little bit at the delta V readings for this. Space delta V readings. Now, of course, the delta V readings are not particularly accurate because there is a middle stage and docking involved. But let us see. So first of all, as you can see, we have 3.5 kilometers per second of delta V in the first two stages. This is to get us to orbit. Now we have another 5,600 in this stage. This makes sure that we get into orbit, because this is kind of close. 3.5 kilometers per second with such a huge rocket. You want to have a little bit of spare. And it's also the transfer to Moho, and I think it's close to also being, yeah, it's also the braking stage to make sure we get into orbit of Moho and not just fly by. And then we have, I believe, stage 3. These four are not right. It says 585. That's because it includes the top stage here, which is not accurate again. But this top stage is actually accurate. 5,200, which should be cutting it close, I believe. Moho to Kerbin. Yeah, it's 5,000. Now you might say, ooh, that's only 200 meters per second of leeway. Well, that's if I want to get into an orbit around Kerbin at 100 kilometers of altitude. So we don't actually need to do that. We just want to get a flyby and slow down enough that we don't burn up into the atmosphere. So this should be plenty. So that's the rocket. I'm going to try to put up a link in the description as well to download the rocket if you're so inclined. Again, there might be, or I may have forgotten, the Kerbal Engineer parts. I should probably put one in just for convenience. I can't. Oh, there it is. There is one. All right. So be careful of that. Also, I'm still using version 1.2.2 just because I am super lazy and I couldn't be bothered to update all the mods and everything. Version 1.3 has basically nothing. I mean, it's mostly localization stuff. I think there is one part that's not super meaningful that's added, and basically nothing else changes, so your experience should be the same. And that's about it. We're going to Moho. We're going to be bringing a pilot to fly the initial part of this mission to Moho and then back. And we're bringing a scientist who will actually land on Moho and come back. I guess I should also show you and share the relay satellite I'll be using. Now, where is it? This is really... No, it's not this one. The Echo, I believe, is the one we've been using locally. Oh my. Did I update this design? I did not. Where is my relay? Nope. Mark II as well? That's no, wait, that's... I'm dumb. Sorry about that. Did I not build a relay satellite already? Wow. This is a space station. This is the current vehicle. This is, I believe, a return vehicle. That couldn't possibly be it, no. Well, perhaps I didn't build the relay. Oh, this might be it. Yeah, this is it. There we go. Wow, I think I clicked everything before I clicked the right one. Anyways, again, thermal control systems. Large solar panels, although this one will be so close to the sun it should never run out of power, really, with this kind of solar panel, unlike the ELU one, which may have been a bit more complicated to set up. It's really simple. Now, this thing won't actually be in orbit of ELU. Nope, it definitely won't be in orbit of ELU. It will be around MOHO, much like the satellite around Kerbin. It's not actually in the sphere of influence, but it's basically on the same orbit at a significant distance that it's not actually orbiting MOHO. So it's at a constant bearing around MOHO, basically. This helps with eclipses and that kind of stuff. Now, it's the best antenna we got. It's got several times the power of the previous antenna, so this should really easily communicate with our current relay around Kerbin and with the vehicles around MOHO. So that's it. That's a really simple vehicle, really. This is the ascent stage right there, which has a bit too much fuel, really, but as you can see, it's really simple. An extra reaction wheel to make it easier to control. Then we've got this in a frame. Jesus, I forgot all the names in this game. Protective shell. There was a better word for this, but anyways. A fairing, there we go. Which we'll discard, obviously. And this thing has plenty of fuel to get there, basically. But it'll just be doing basically a flyby, and it'll park in I orbit. Well, not in orbit, but at a fair distance. And it's not going to return, so this is why we don't need as much fuel. As you can see, Kerbin to MOHO to get into an orbit is only 4,000. I've got an extra 1,000 meters per second of delta V, just so I can make a flyby, do a flyby, and just, you know, park in space around MOHO. And that's it. That's all we should need to get signal from MOHO to Kerbin and back. We'll just take a quick look. So as you can see, we have this relay, which has a similar amount of power, transmitting power, antenna power. Anyways, as you can see, it can communicate fine with the relay around Duna for most of the cycle. So around MOHO, for most part, the distance should be roughly less, and it's got more power, and it could also bounce from MOHO to Duna and then back to Kerbin in case of an eclipse. So it should really not be a problem to get signal around MOHO. And I believe the return stage, has an antenna that can relay information. I'm not even sure, maybe I'll add one. It's not critical, but it would make things even easier if you want to communicate with the lander, you know, 24/7 basically. So that's it. I hope you've enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff if this helped you, if you've enjoyed. And we will see each other in the mission part, hopefully. Thank you. Bye-bye.